Welcome back. Today, a true craftsman unearthed a forgotten piece of mechanical history to bring it back from the earth. The classic lines of this Piaggio are buried under decades of severe oxidation. Left exposed, the elements have turned the structural steel brittle. The first challenge is simply moving a seized, degrading frame without snapping the weakened chassis points. Back in the shop, the teardown begins immediately. Fasteners that have sat outdoors for years fuse together through galvanic corrosion. Penetrating fluid and torque are required to break the molecular bond, holding the rusted suspension and wheel hubs together. Body panels on these vintage scooters were stamped from single sheets of mild steel. This monocoque design provided excellent rigidity when new, but creates hidden cavities where moisture pools. Every rubber grommet and steel hinge pin must be carefully extracted to expose the true extent of the rot. The drivetrain is an ecosystem of neglect. Draining the crankcase reveals a viscous sludge, indicating heavy water intrusion over the years. Separating the seized rim from the hub takes mechanical persuasion, as the two metals have practically welded themselves together. Air-cooled engines rely entirely on surface area to dissipate extreme internal temperatures. When deep cooling fins are packed solid with petrified mud, the engine loses its thermal regulation entirely. Chiseling away this hardened crust is essential before any solvent can reach the underlying aluminum casing. Pressurized solvents force out the remaining particulate matter. Aluminum is highly porous, and years of baked-on oil and road grime seep deeply into the metal structure. Fluting the surface lifts these contaminants, leaving a clean foundation for the mechanical inspection ahead. The bare chassis receives a concentrated chemical wash. This active foam neutralizes surface greases and suspends dirt particles, preventing them from being driven deeper into the compromised steel during the heavy scrubbing phase. Cleanliness dictates the success of any engine rebuild. A single grain of sand left on a mating surface can score a cylinder wall or destroy a main bearing. Thoroughly degreasing the outer housing ensures that no abrasive debris falls into the delicate, rotating assemblies once the block is opened. The top end reveals the engine's true history. Removing the finned cylinder head exposes a heavy layer of carbon accumulation on the piston crown, a clear sign of incomplete combustion. Extracting the piston from the worn sleeve confirms that the internal tolerances have expanded far beyond factory specifications. Splitting the crankcase requires breaking a factory seal that has held for decades. Inside, the transmission gears remain submerged in a bath of ancient, sludgy gear oil. This thick fluid, while messy, often preserves the hardened steel teeth by locking out oxygen and preventing internal rust. The corroded crankshaft is pulled from its bearing journals. Every component is mapped and laid flat. Organization at this stage eliminates the guesswork of reassembly later. Order prevents chaos. Moving to structural repair, the compromised sections of the chassis must be replaced entirely. Rust is a progressive disease. Simply covering it guarantees a future failure. Fresh steel is measured and scribed with a high carbon tip, ensuring absolute precision. Heavy shear force then separates the patch panel along the marked geometry, creating a clean blank that will be welded into the original body line. With the structural welding complete, the focus shifts to surface profiling. Two-part polyester putty cures via an exothermic chemical reaction rather than evaporation. Pressing this flexible filler deeply into the remaining surface pits prevents trapped air pockets, establishing a tough, stable base for the final finish. The central load-bearing spine receives a heavy coat of filler to restore its original smooth curvature. This area handles the bulk of the rider's weight, so the transition must be seamless. Simultaneously, mechanical components undergo their own abrasive resurfacing. A high-speed rotary tool strips, oxidation from the aluminum engine mount, and the steel exhaust manifold. Grinding down to bare metal is not just for aesthetics. Paint, primer, and heat coatings cannot bond properly to loose rust or contaminated surfaces. The metal is brought to a bright, uniform polish. Large, sweeping panels demand a different technique. Broad strokes with a metal spreader distribute the compound evenly across the wide arch. The goal here is to build up a slight surplus of material, creating a perfectly continuous plane that will later be blocked down to match the factory contours. The hardening edges are precisely trimmed before the filler fully solidifies. A final micro layer is then drawn across the surface. This thin glaze fills minor pinholes left by the previous coats. Applying multiple thin passes minimizes the chance of cracking as the panel flexes under road vibration. Even structural castings require minor corrections. Pressing filler into the deep gouges of the aluminum block ensures the final metallic paint will reflect light evenly, without casting shadows from old impact damage. Hand sanding is a test of patience and touch. A high-build white primer reveals high and low spots as it wears away, acting as a guide coat. Taking down the primer layers levels the topography of the steel, creating an impossibly smooth canvas for the color stage. The transformation accelerates in the spray booth. A silver metallic base is atomized over the bare engine cases, sealing the porous aluminum against future moisture. Heat-resistant black is applied to the cylinder to aid in thermal radiation. while a bright red fan guarantees high contrast inside the cooling shroud. The mechanical components become visual focal points. A rich, vibrant blue wraps the side cowlings, instantly erasing the memory of the faded green decay. Clear coat is applied wet on wet to maximize depth and UV protection. Meanwhile, laying a solid white base over the fuel tank ensures the final blue layer will remain brilliantly bright. The remaining accents receive their color match. Maintaining a consistent spray distance and travel speed is crucial across these small, complex curves to prevent thick runs or dry, textured overspray. Reassembly is where precision pays off. The refreshed engine block is mated to the reinforced chassis, locking the drivetrain into the newly straightened spine. Installing the fork and body panels requires strict care. A single slipped wrench at this stage could destroy hours of flawless paintwork. Out in the open air, the machine breathes again. What was once an immobilized, rusting relic, abandoned to the earth, is now a perfectly functional piece of restored history. The engine pulls smoothly, the patched frame holds true, and the deep metallic paint reflects the passing landscape. Survival is more than endurance. It's foresight. Some things are simply worth the long road back.